Shiny, 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 shiny. What do you mean we're being recorded? Raw Mithril here once again, getting back to Magmammal 2, and it's time to cover the judge commentary on the last two stages, so we'll start with number 63, Peter Dunn's Combust Man. Snow Run Pyro. Honestly, it's pretty forgettable. For a level called Combust Man, there's a strange, complete, and utter lack of anything remotely related to fire, and the whole level is just some basic setups with Mets, new shopmen, and bounders. I was glad to see that bounders were there because I was expecting a bunch of 5 and 6 enemies to not get used, but they weren't used, like, super interestingly or anything. There's a noticeable amount of challenges that seem laughably skippable, namely the new shopman right at the start, and anything involving the Met cannons, and this is probably one of the few levels where I'd just outright call the level ugly. The music is great, but the tiles in the background don't loop very well, and when they get bright orange, it's really eye-searing. I did laugh at the boss, though. That was pretty funny. Overall, it's pretty average. There's clearly effort put into it, it's just that it doesn't really turn out too well. Jupy Hornet. It really didn't feel like a lot of thought was put into this stage's layout. You could literally avoid a lot of the enemies without any consequence. The graphics were really hard to look at, especially in the boss room. Speaking of the boss, I shot it once with a Mega Buster and it died. The boss seemed unfinished, but maybe it was intentional because it's called Combust Man? Angel. A fun little stage, though it could have done more with what it offers. The challenge in this level is fairly simple, and it doesn't ramp up much, with the falling section at the end mainly difficult due to its unpredictability. The nickel sections, while providing a nice bonus challenge, are held back by their background palette, which often obscures enemies that are placed in these rooms. I like the way Combust Man combusts when you shoot him, though. Pretty funny ending. Gariri. There's honestly little appeal in this stage. It's way too easy, the level just feels empty and boring most of the time. The graphics are eye-straining and nothing too impressive anyway, and while I always have to give some points for having a boss, in this case it's just a still sprite that does nothing and dies in one hit. I pretty much sum up this stage in one word. Boring. Ace Spark. This exists? Nice of you to make a custom tile set. It doesn't exactly look remotely in style, but that's forgivable. Less forgivable is assets that clearly should be animated aren't. Your main issue is the lack of anything in this stage related to the Robot Master. Props for using a minor gimmick at least, but you haven't really done much with them, and count bombs by themselves are so generic, levels usually have to use other gimmicks around them since they're so boring. Look at any Mega Man stage that uses count bombs such as Blizzard Man and Burst Man, they are never the only thing in the stage. There's also a few areas where you can find yourself stuck either using weapons to get out or kill yourself, but these are limited to the noble nickels rather than the main path. As for the nickels themselves, these are quite frankly the easiest collectibles I've ever encountered. Much like the rest of the stage, little thought was put into them. As I saw the boss corridor, I was not expecting anything to be waiting for me, and was ready for no climax to the stage whatsoever, but I have to praise you for that part. That was honestly great. Shame about the rest of the level. Honestly, I would have kind of liked to have seen Combust Man do more, but I get the joke, it is pretty funny, but I would have liked to have had a real boss fight there. But yeah, most of those comments I do kind of agree with. A lot of the stage felt pretty empty, and it wasn't overly challenging or anything, and the background, especially in the bonus areas, was really hard to look at. That is one bit of critique I would give it, though, is sometimes it's not really clear which way is the bonus path and which way is the real path, and once you get locked onto one, you can't go back and check out the other one. So I got really lucky finding them all in one go. And now for 62, Liquifool's The Dampening. Snow Run Pyro. Some of the ideas presented here are neat. I like the, singular pole egg puzzle in the level, and the darkness rooms are kinda neat. The noble nickel in one of them was devious but fair. But there's just not much done with anything, really. The level just kinda jumps all over the place with its ideas. There's pole eggs, there's 3 dark rooms total, there's wave bubbles, there's Galaxy Man portals. It's all over the place. Lots of good ideas, but not really great execution. The level needed to pick 2 or 3 and focus on them, rather than just throwing a bunch of stuff around. As a result, the level just feels like a jumble. It still plays okay, though, and some of the setups I like. Some of the noble nickels are pretty garbage, though, namely the one where you have to, drag a key around for half the level and not die. Also, cool boss. Jupy Hornet. This level has some really sloppy design, and it's way too cramped. Enemies felt like they were randomly placed around the level. The darkness gimmick was nice, but it felt out of place. I don't really know what else to say other than the fact that this level was weird. Angel. This level feels sorta random. I like its general idea of sinking deep into the ocean, dodging spikes, and then coming back out for some reason. Did Mega Man forget where to go? But I think the execution on this is sorta anything to get the players there, rather than, okay, let's do something consistent. There are a lot of elements in this level that don't get to see a second use, and I wish they did, because reusing them in later segments and mixing them with what's been introduced since would have made those more interesting. Instead, this level feels like an experiment. It has a nice aesthetic, and I like how it gets dark for a few screens, but the gameplay is something I find a bit underwhelming. Gariri. There are a lot of flaws here. Problems such as random enemy and obstacle placement exist in this level, making many sections cheap. Not to mention how some noble nickels require either high precision, prior knowledge of the stage, or death, as they could be impossible to get without dying. This stage is also fairly frustrating, primarily because of those reasons, and nothing here is particularly interesting. Other than that, only one other thing to mention. Was there really not any music of better quality available? Because it sounds absolutely awful. I was wondering if that was just me, but yeah, that Bubble Man sample sounded kinda fuzzy. Ace Spark. This is practically unfinished in spots. I should not be seeing bare gray tiles from the Game Maker editor, and the music choice was really dull. With that out of the way, let's get down to the real issues with the stage. This is seriously unfocused. It's like a kid with ADD. Ooh, poles. Wait, no, Galaxy Man teleporters. Wait, no, Wave Man bubbles. This doesn't particularly give any of the gimmicks a time to shine. Their use is just sort of middling. There is one seriously cool segment of your stage, the darkness area, and the fact it doesn't spawn in when you enter a screen is great, allowing you to see your surroundings before partially blinding you, so at least you have a rough idea where to look for the goodies. Unfortunately, it's only used on 3 screens. One of those is a mini-boss that doesn't take advantage of the fact. Shame. I wish the level was built around this concept. The seeming random nature of everything really lets the stage down overall. I am glad there is some sort of climax to the stage, but it probably should have involved an actual challenge, since it's impossible to fail it. As it stands, it is just a time waster. I'm really not sure I got the ending of the stage. I kept trying to avoid the energy elements, thinking that, like, maybe I had to maneuver through the maze to find one last noble nickel there or something before I knew there was one in the dark room, but are they mostly fake and I just lucked out and actually grabbed the one real one or something? I really don't know. That room felt really weird to me. But yeah, the judges again here, they brought up a lot of the problems that I had. That one noble nickel that absolutely requires death is just not good. I mean, at the very least, you have infinite lives in this compilation, so it could have been worse. But still, that's just really questionable design. And yeah, the one where you have to drag the key around, I pretty much expressed my grievances with that one. It makes sense from a design standpoint, as that's part of the challenge, getting there without dying, but the fact that you have 2 checkpoints between where you get the key and where you have to use it means that you have to redo the entire stage again, and that's where I really had a problem with that. But yeah, this stage, it did feel pretty jumbled and really unfocused. A lot of times it didn't really feel too clear where I was supposed to go. But, I mean, I'll give them props for making an underwater level. A lot of times you don't really see anyone particularly willing to take on that challenge, so interesting that someone did. But with that, that's where we're going to call it for now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I shall see you again next time. Until then, fare thee well.